had never imagined he would stand on a world so different from Earth. The skies were painted with two suns, one gold, one violet, that moved in ways that made no human sense. The air shimmered, carrying faint musical notes that seemed to hum against his skin. Towering crystal structures jutted from the ground, refracting the light into dazzling rainbows. It was breathtaking, but also terrifying. Every step he took felt like walking into a story he was not yet ready to understand. He had come as part of a diplomatic mission, sent by Earth to observe and, if possible, negotiate peaceful contact, but never expected to meet the princess of, and certainly not like this. She appeared suddenly in the central courtyard, hovering above the crystal tiles, her silver skin catching every flicker of sunlight and painting her like some ethereal spirit. Her hair flowed in the alien breeze, long and luminous, curling around her shoulders like liquid metal. Her eyes, deep and luminous, scanned the courtyard, as if she could see not just him, but everything within him. His heart pounded. He was supposed to bow, greet her with formalities, recite the words he had memorized. But the moment he looked into her eyes, all training vanished. Words bubbled up from somewhere deep inside. "You're brave and amazing," he said without thinking. The courtyard froze. Guards surrounding her stiffened, weapons rising instinctively. Realized the danger instantly, but it was too late. The words were already out. The air vibrated with tension, a low hum that seemed to come from the planet itself. Then came a sound that made his blood run cold, a roar so deep and powerful that it shook the crystal tiles beneath his feet. "Did you call my daughter, love, human?" The voice came from above, from a presence so immense and terrifying that instinctively dropped to one knee. The alien queen stepped into view, her form towering over everyone. Her scales shimmered like obsidian and fire mixed together. Her eyes were golden and fierce, sharp enough to cut through stone. Even without speaking, she radiated authority, wrath, and power. Every being in the courtyard seemed to shrink under her gaze. Swallowed hard, his words meant as admiration had unintentionally challenged the highest authority on the planet. Every instinct screamed that he had made a mistake, a fatal one. Yet when he looked at the princess, he saw a flicker of something unexpected, curiosity. She did not look frightened. She looked uncertain. The queen stepped closer, her movements graceful yet terrifyingly precise. Her voice rumbled like a distant storm. "Do you understand the consequences of what you have said, human? Do you know what it means to call my daughter love?" His throat tightened. He could feel the weight of history pressing down on him, the unbroken traditions of a civilization older than Earth itself. Yet somehow, despite the fear, he felt compelled to speak truth. I meant no disrespect, Your Majesty. His voice faltered. "I only wanted to honor her. She matters to me more than anything." The queen paused, tilting her head as if inspecting him carefully. The air seemed to thicken, carrying the tension of 1,000 unspoken words. Guards exchanged uneasy glances, unsure whether to attack, retreat, or intervene. The princess remained suspended in the air, silent, her expression unreadable. His heart raced. He realized in that moment that this was no longer a simple diplomatic encounter. It had become a test, a judgment of his courage, his honesty, and perhaps his very worthiness as a human. And somewhere deep inside, he knew that the future of not only his mission but the bond he had begun to feel with the princess depended on what he would do next. The suns have glared down at him, indifferent and eternal, as the queen's gaze bore into his very soul. The moment stretched, suspended in tension, waiting for him to show whether a human heart could survive in a world ruled by gods. The courtyard fell completely silent. Even the wind seemed to hesitate, holding its breath under the weight of the queen's gaze. Could feel his heart hammering in his chest. Every instinct screamed at him to bow, to beg forgiveness, to erase the words he had spoken. But something deeper inside told him not to. His words were honest, and honesty had carried him across galaxies to this moment. The queen's golden eyes narrowed, glowing brighter under the twin suns. Her voice, deep and rolling like a mountain shifting, filled the space. "Do you understand, human? Words carry power on. They are not empty sounds to be thrown carelessly. To speak of love for my daughter is to challenge the very laws that have protected our lineage for." Swallowed hard, feeling the weight of centuries pressing down on him. His palms were slick with sweat. He tried to speak, but his voice came out shaky. I did not mean to challenge you, Your Majesty. He hesitated, searching for the right words. I only see her as someone remarkable. She inspires courage, light, and hope. She matters to me more than I have ever understood." A ripple of tension passed through the queen's scales, making them glitter with an almost dangerous light. "You dare claim such feelings, and yet you stand here trembling? Love is not a trifle to speak lightly, human. It demands sacrifice, courage, and the strength to endure what many cannot survive. Do you even comprehend the risk you have taken?" He's almost buckled, but he forced himself to stay upright. He realized that the queen was not merely angry, she was testing him, testing his resolve, his honesty, his very soul. He straightened his back, letting the fear sharpen his determination rather than weaken it. "I do understand," he said firmly. "I understand that it may be dangerous. I understand that you may never approve, but my feelings, they are true, and I will not deny them, not for fear, not for tradition, and not for power." The queen's massive form shifted, and the air seemed to vibrate around her. Sparks of light ran across her scales like lightning trapped in living metal. "Bold words, human," she said, her voice quieter now, but still filled with an intensity that could split stone. "Yet words are only the beginning. To prove your worth, you must demonstrate that your heart is as steadfast as your tongue. Many have spoken boldly and fallen into ruin for it." The princess hovered closer, her expression a mixture of worry and fascination. Her silver hair fluttered in the alien breeze as she watched, eyes wide, lips slightly parted. It was the first hint of approval, or perhaps curiosity, he had received from her, and for a moment felt hope flicker amidst the fear that threatened to consume him. The queen's voice rose again like a storm ready to break. "Human, do you believe you are worthy to stand in my presence and claim my daughter's regard? You will not simply speak and leave. Does not honor empty hearts. To be worthy of her, you must endure trials that test every part of your being, courage, compassion, and the willingness to sacrifice everything you hold dear." Felt his stomach twist. The words were terrifying, but they did not deter him. Somehow he knew that the path forward required him to step into the unknown, to face dangers he could not imagine. I will face it," he said, his voice steady now, though his pulse raced. "Whatever it takes, I will not step back, not from her and not from you." A hush fell over the courtyard as the queen's eyes held him in silent scrutiny. For the first time, sensed a pause in her fury, a flicker of respect, perhaps, buried beneath centuries of tradition and protective pride. The suns above seemed to shine brighter, casting long, trembling shadows across the crystal tiles. "Very well, human," the queen finally said, her voice both warning and promise. "If you seek to prove your worth, you must enter the trial of the heart. Many have entered, few have returned. Know this does not forgive weakness, and my daughter's future depends on your success." His chest tightened. The ground beneath him seemed to hum with the planet's power. He glanced at the princess, who looked at him with a fragile smile, as if silently urging him onward. He took a deep breath, bracing himself. His journey and his chance to win her trust and heart was about to begin. The suns have burned bright over the crystal gardens, and in that moment understood. Fear was only the beginning. Courage would be his guide, and the queen's wrath would be the test that either forged him or broke him forever. The air around thickened as the queen's command echoed across the courtyard. "Enter the trial of the heart, human. Only then will your words find weight." A gust of wind swept through, carrying sparks of violet light that danced like fireflies. The ground shifted beneath him, revealing a jagged pathway carved into glowing crystal. A bridge, suspended over a chasm of swirling, molten energy, stretched before him. It was the threshold to the trial. His heart raced. Every instinct screamed danger, yet his resolve burned brighter than fear. He looked up at the princess. Her eyes shimmered with worry and hope, and she whispered almost to herself, "Be careful, but don't falter." He could see the silent trust in her gaze, the fragile bond they had begun to forge. That trust became a lifeline, something stronger than courage alone. He had to survive, not for glory, but for her. The first step onto the bridge sent shivers up his spine. The crystals beneath his feet hummed, vibrating with a strange energy that seemed almost alive. Shadows flickered at the edges of his vision, twisting into shapes he couldn't name. They whispered doubts, fears, and warnings, echoing in a language his mind struggled to grasp. The wind howled, tugging at him, but clenched his fists and pressed on. Suddenly, a monstrous shape lunged from the darkness. Its body was fluid, shifting between solid and smoke, eyes glowing red. It roared, shaking the bridge with a force that made his knees buckle, stumbled but didn't fall. Instinctively, he dodged, then grabbed a crystalline shard from the bridge to defend himself. He swung it, but the creature dissolved into mist before his weapon could strike. It wasn't just a battle of strength. It was a test of perception, reflexes, and will. The bridge narrowed, forcing him to balance with every step. Below, the chasm glowed like the heart of a dying star, tempting him to falter. He remembered the Queen's words. This trial was not about fighting for himself, but for those he loved. Every hesitation could mean failure, not just for him, but for the princess he had come to admire. As he moved forward, illusions began to appear, visions of the princess in danger, crying out, trapped in fires and storms that were not real. Each vision tugged at his heart, trying to pull him away from the path. His pulse raced. The fear was almost unbearable, but he focused on her eyes, the trust she had given him. He reached for the visions, offering help, and each time he did, the illusions vanished. It was as if the trial was measuring not just courage, but the depth of his care. Hours, or maybe minutes, time twisted strangely here passed. His body ached, his energy drained by the shifting path, the illusions, and the relentless pressure. But he refused to stop. He whispered to himself, "I can't fail, not for her, not for her." The mantra kept him steady, even as monstrous shapes, fiery winds, and molten fissures threatened to end him. Finally, the bridge widened into a vast chamber carved entirely from crystal, glowing with a light that seemed alive. At its center was a pool, still and reflective, showing not his face, but the fears and doubts he carried inside. Every insecurity he had, every fear of failing, every worry that he was worthy was there, staring back at him. Took a deep breath and stepped closer. He whispered aloud, "I am human. I am afraid, but I am brave. I love her, and I will not turn back." The pool shimmered, ripples spreading across its surface. The illusions faded. The creatures vanished. The molten winds stilled. Felt a strange calm wash over him, a quiet approval, as if the trial itself had recognized his resolve. He had survived the first part of the trial of the heart, not by fighting blindly, but by proving that courage and love could guide him even in the most impossible of circumstances. He glanced upward. The princess hovered just beyond the chamber's entrance, her expression softening as she saw him alive, triumphant yet changed. Her lips curved into a faint, almost imperceptible smile, one that made his chest tighten with a mix of relief and hope. The journey was far from over, but in that moment he knew that every danger he faced was worth it. For her, he could endure anything, stepped cautiously from the glowing chamber into a vast, shadowed cavern. The air here was thick and heavy, carrying the scent of molten crystal and something almost like memory, ancient, heavy, alive. The walls pulsed faintly, as if the planet itself were breathing. This next part of the trial of the heart was far more personal, more dangerous. He could feel it in his bones. Here, the test would pierce not just his body, but his soul. As he moved forward, whispers began to swirl around him, soft at first, then louder, sharper, like the voices of 1,000 unseen watchers. They murmured his deepest fears, doubts, and insecurities. "You are not worthy," one hissed. "She is beyond your reach," another whispered. "Step aside, human, leave now before your love becomes your ruin." His pulse quickened. Every word was a blade slicing through his confidence. Yet he kept moving, step by careful step, repeating silently to himself, "I am human. I will not falter. I will protect her." Suddenly, the ground beneath him shuddered, splitting open to reveal a pit of searing energy. Across it, shimmering silhouettes moved, phantoms of his own past, failures he had buried deep. He saw faces of people he had failed to save, moments he had faltered, choices he regretted. The phantoms stretched their hands toward him, accusing, demanding, blaming. His legs shook. Every instinct told him to run, to leap back to safety. But he couldn't. He could not turn away from the trial, not if he wanted to prove his heart, not if he wanted to honor the princess's trust. He drew a deep, shuddering breath and spoke aloud to the phantoms. "I cannot change the past. I cannot undo mistakes, but I can learn, I can rise, I can fight to protect those who matter now." The shadows flickered, wavering, some dissolving as if acknowledging his courage. A few remained, silent and watchful, but their attacks had failed. Then a wind unlike any he had felt before blew through the cavern. It carried fire and ice together, twisting and bending around him like a living storm. Figures emerged from the vortex, beasts of molten crystal and shadow, roaring with rage and hunger. Realized that this was the trial's true purpose, to test not only his heart but his willingness to sacrifice for others. Every roar reminded him that failure could mean not just his death, but the harm of the princess he cared for so deeply. Ran dodging the beasts and the flames, grabbing shards of crystal for defense. But the trial was not simply about fighting. It forced him to act with precision and compassion. When a creature collapsed, wounded and screaming, he hesitated, then reached out, calming it, easing its pain. Each act of care, each choice to endure for others made the trial respond. Paths opened, obstacles melted away, and the cavern seemed to bend in recognition of his resolve. Hours, or perhaps moments, time had no meaning here, passed. His body ached, his muscles screamed, and his breath came in ragged gasps. Yet he pushed forward, driven by the single thought of the princess and the silent trust she had placed in him. Every step forward was a promise, every heartbeat a testament to the strength of his feelings. At last he reached a pool of still, black water at the center of the cavern. The surface reflected not his face, but a vision of the princess, vulnerable, frightened, alone. The trial demanded one final test. Would he act for her, even if it meant risking everything? Knelt beside the water, whispering, "I will not abandon you. I will face whatever comes for you, for us." The pool shimmered, ripples spreading across its surface. The storm calmed, the shadows faded, and the cavern's walls glowed softly. Rose, trembling but triumphant. The trial of the heart had tested him beyond physical limits. It had pierced to the very essence of his courage, compassion, and devotion. As he stepped forward, he felt something he had never known, a deep, unshakable certainty. He had proven his heart, and whatever awaited beyond this trial, he knew he was no longer just a visitor on. He was someone who could stand alongside the princess, someone who could face the fury of her mother, and perhaps, in time, earn the respect of an entire world. Stepped out of the trial's cavern, every muscle trembling, every breath labored, but his eyes burned with determination. The light of the twin suns greeted him like a promise, and the crystal courtyard, once intimidating, now felt almost welcoming. He had survived the trial of the heart, not through strength alone, but through courage, care, and unwavering devotion. The lessons of fear, sacrifice, and love had been seared into him, leaving him stronger yet deeply changed. The princess floated toward him, her silver hair sparkling in the light. Her eyes were wide, filled with awe and a hint of relief. You survived," she whispered, her voice barely audible over the hum of the crystal walls. There was wonder in her gaze, but also a softness had never seen before. She had observed his struggle from afar, had felt the sincerity in his every choice. Now, in this quiet moment, her trust in him was no longer uncertain. It was real, fragile, but undeniable. Before he could respond, the queen appeared, her massive form looming over them. Her scales shimmered, catching the suns in sharp angles, making her look almost untouchable. The courtyard seemed smaller under her presence. "You have returned, human," she said, her voice low and resonant. "Most who enter the trial do not emerge alive. Few possess the courage to face what lies within themselves." Bowed respectfully, exhaustion weighing heavily on him, yet his gaze never faltered. "I did what I had to do, Your Majesty, for her, and for the truth of my heart." The queen studied him, her golden eyes flickering like fire. A long silence stretched between them, filled with the sound of the wind whispering through the crystal spires. Finally she spoke, her voice softer now, though no less commanding. "It seems this human heart is stronger than I expected, stronger than many born under the stars of." Her words carried weight, a rare acknowledgement of respect, and felt a flicker of hope he had never dared to imagine. The princess hovered closer, letting her hand brush his. The touch was light, almost tentative, yet it carried a world of meaning. His chest tightened, his emotions swelling in a mixture of relief, pride, and something deeper, love. "You have truly endured," she said, her voice quivering slightly. "And you have come back for me, that matters more than you know." His lips curved into a small, weary smile. "I would face 1,000 trials if it meant keeping you safe, if it meant proving the truth of my heart. I care for you, not as a stranger, not as a guest, but as someone who sees you truly." The queen stepped forward, her eyes scrutinizing him once more. "Love is not just words, human. You have proven it in action, in sacrifice, and in courage. That is rare. That is worthy of recognition." She gestured toward her daughter. "And yet the future is not yours by simple survival. You must earn trust, respect, and acceptance in ways your kind may never have imagined. But this, your endurance, your heart, it is a beginning." Felt his shoulders relax for the first time in hours. He realized that he had not only survived the trial, but had begun to forge a path toward acceptance. not just from the princess, but from a world that had always seemed impossibly alien. Every choice he had made, every risk he had taken, had led to this moment of recognition. The princess moved fully beside him, her hand resting lightly in his. "You have my gratitude," she said softly, "and perhaps in time something more. But for now, we face what comes next together." His heart swelled. The queen, still watching, nodded faintly. The suns rose higher, casting long shadows across the crystal tiles, and knew that this was only the beginning. The trial of the heart had not ended. Its lessons would linger, shaping him in ways he could not yet understand. But he had passed. And for the first time, he felt that perhaps a human could stand, not as a visitor, but as a partner in the world of the alien princess. The winds have whispered around them, carrying light, warmth, and the faint promise of a future forged by courage, trust, and the undeniable strength of a human heart. The courtyard was quiet now, almost unnaturally so. Stood beside the princess, his body still aching from the trial of the heart, yet his mind was alert, ready. The queen moved slowly toward him, each step resonating with authority, her scales reflecting the twin suns in a dazzling display. "Human," she said, her voice calm but sharp, "you have survived the trial and proven your heart is steadfast. But courage alone is not enough. Loyalty must be tested, and love, well, love must face its ultimate trial." Swallowed hard, his pulse quickening. He had faced illusions, monsters, and fears beyond his comprehension, yet now he felt a new weight pressing on him. He glanced at the princess. Her silver hair glimmered in the sunlight, her expression a mixture of worry and trust. Her hand brushed lightly against his, and he felt a surge of determination. He would not fail her, not now, not ever. The queen's eyes narrowed, and a wave of energy rippled across the courtyard. The air shimmered, and suddenly the princess was lifted from side by a force he could not see. She floated in the air, trapped in a sphere of glowing light. Panic surged through him, but he forced it down, focusing on his resolve. "I will protect her," he whispered under his breath, his voice steady. "Even from you if I must." The queen's voice echoed, resonant and terrifying. "Do you mean that, human? Will you risk everything, your life, your safety, your future, to defend her, even against me, her mother?" His heart pounded. He stepped forward, fists clenched. "Yes, I will protect her, no matter what. No matter who or what stands in my way, I do not fear you. I fear failing her, and I will not fail." The queen's eyes glowed brighter, and the energy around the princess intensified. The sphere pulsed, threatening to consume her, yet did not flinch. He focused on the love that had carried him through the trial of the heart, on the trust the princess had given him, and on the courage that had survived every challenge. He reached out, moving through the shimmering energy as if it were nothing, and extended his hands toward the sphere. A blinding light erupted, and felt immense pressure pushing against him. The air burned, the ground trembled, and the winds howled like a living creature. But he did not hesitate. He poured every ounce of his strength, courage, and love into that single act of protection. He would not let her be harmed, not by fate, not by trial, and not by the queen. Slowly the light began to dim. The sphere dissolved, and the princess floated down into his arms, unharmed. She looked at him, her eyes wide with awe and gratitude. You did it," she whispered, her voice trembling. "You protected me even when it seemed impossible." Breathed heavily, still holding her, his body shaking from exertion and relief. "I promised," he said simply. "I promised to protect you. I would do it 1,000 times over." The queen approached, silent for a moment, then finally spoke. "Human," she said, her tone softer, almost approving, "you have proven yourself beyond expectation. Your heart is unyielding, your courage undeniable, and your loyalty remarkable. Perhaps in my long life I have underestimated the strength of humanity." Looked up at her, relief washing through him, but he did not let his guard down. "Thank you, your majesty," he said quietly. "I only wish to honor your daughter and the trust you have placed in her." The queen nodded slowly, the fiery glow in her eyes fading into something warmer, something like respect. She gestured to her daughter, who clung lightly to his arm, a smile forming on her lips. "It seems human," the queen said, "that you are worthy not only of survival but of her trust. Guard it well. Love and loyalty are rare among your kind, yet you have shown both in abundance." Felt a deep sense of accomplishment, but more importantly, a bond had been forged. A bond stronger than fear, stronger than tradition. He had faced the wrath of a queen, endured the impossible, and emerged not just alive, but proven. The suns have shone brighter now, painting the courtyard in gold and violet. The wind whispered through the crystal spires, carrying the promise of a future where human courage and alien honor could coexist. Tightened his hold on the princess's hand, and for the first time he felt that love, true, tested, and unwavering, could survive even in the face of an alien queen's fury. The crystal courtyard glowed in the golden light of the twin suns. The trial had ended, the queen's wrath had been tested, and yet somehow the world felt larger, fuller, and strangely welcoming. Stood beside the princess, holding her hand firmly. Every muscle in his body ached, every breath felt heavy, but his heart was lighter than it had ever been. He had endured, he had proven himself, and now he felt the quiet power of trust, respect, and love surrounding him. The princess looked at him, her silver hair shimmering in the sunlight. "You have faced what no human has dared," she whispered, her voice trembling slightly. "You have risked everything, endured more than I could have imagined, and yet you have returned for me." Her eyes shone, reflecting a mixture of admiration, relief, and the beginnings of something deeper. Felt a warmth spread through him, stronger than any fear or exhaustion, a feeling that anchored him to this alien world and to her. The queen's massive form approached, her golden eyes softening as she regarded the human who had survived trials meant to break the strongest of warriors. She said, her voice deep yet filled with a rare warmth, "You have proven that courage, loyalty, and love are not bound by species. Your heart is steadfast, your spirit unyielding. Perhaps humanity holds more than I ever imagined." Bowed respectfully, "Your Majesty, I only wish to honor your daughter and the trust you have given her. I do not take this lightly." The queen's gaze lingered on him, then shifted to her daughter. "It seems the path of love and courage has been shown to us all today. You have my recognition, human. Not all who enter leave with my acknowledgement. You are exceptional." Her words carried weight, but also a rare pride. For the first time, felt that he had truly crossed the boundary from visitor to someone recognized, respected, and worthy of the alien princess's world. The princess moved closer, brushing a strand of silver hair from her face. "I trusted you," she said softly, "even when I didn't fully understand your strength. You've shown me that courage isn't about being unafraid, it's about facing danger for what you believe in and for those you care about. I believe in you." A wave of relief and joy surged through him. He took her hands in his and met her gaze. "I will not fail you. I will stand by you through every danger, every challenge. I will protect you as long as I breathe." The queen's expression softened further, her scales catching the sunlight like molten metal. "Love, courage, and loyalty, these are qualities rare in any being. You have demonstrated all three. Today you have not only proven yourself to me, but to all of, remember this, human. Your actions, your heart, have the power to bridge worlds. Protect it well." The wind shifted gently through the crystal spires, carrying a faint musical hum. And the princess looked toward the horizon, where the suns rose higher, their golden and violet light spilling across the planet. It felt like a new dawn, not just in the sky, but in the possibilities of their lives, their bond, and the connection between humans and. Felt the weight of the trials, the queen's gaze, and the challenge of survival fade into the background. What remained was certainty, warmth, and a profound sense of belonging. He had faced the impossible, endured the wrath of a queen, and emerged not just alive, but stronger, braver, and worthy of the trust and heart of an alien princess. The princess leaned close, resting her forehead lightly against his. "Together," she said, her voice soft but firm, "we can face anything." Smiled, feeling the truth of her words resonate deep within him. "Together," he echoed. As the twin suns rose fully, bathing the crystal gardens in radiant light, a new chapter began. A human had proven that courage, love, and loyalty could stand among the stars, even on an alien world. And for the first time felt that humanity, his kind, his heart, was not only recognized but celebrated. The winds whispered around them, carrying hope, promise, and the quiet magic of a bond forged in trials, fire, and unwavering devotion. The queen watched from above, her gaze no longer fierce but proud. And in that light, the princess took the first steps into a future that neither worlds nor species could ever deny. One of love, courage, and the enduring strength of a human heart.